Hello and welcome to day 3 of the Rise of the Rebel Matriarch Leadership Summit. And we are meeting the wild woman today. And I have some very wild women here in my corner to talk about something very, very juicy that I'm really looking forward to sharing with you. Today's subject is called Cunt Power is Kind and Can Save the World, which, many people might jump back and think, oh, what a profanity. But we are reframing what it means to access our cunt power, knowing that it is the kind of power that can change the world. And I have Uma Dinsmore-Tuli here today, whose chapter in the Rebel Ma Healing in the Time of the Feminine book actually inspired this workshop because she is an expert in the area. So I'm very excited to share her wisdom with you. And for those of you who don't know Uma, she is an incredible woman, a mother of 3, a PhD, absolute extraordinaire with ADHD. And she's a mother of 3, as I said, and a carer of 3 elders too, a neurodivergent Irish English mongrel, as she likes to call herself, who was first introduced to yoga in London in 1965 by her Dublin-born mother, Uma, and she's been teaching yoga for over 25 years. She's the co-founder of the Yoga Nidra Network. She's the author of 6 books, including Yoni Shakti, a woman's guide to power and freedom through yoga and tantra, and Nidra Shakti, the power of rest, an illustrated encyclopedia of yoga nidra. Uma lives in Stroud and travels widely, sharing retreats, trainings, collective acts of rest, and Mother Peace tarot readings. She weaves yoga therapy, dream play, and yoga nidra together with tarot as part of her commitment to intuitive healing arts with the intention to reawaken the heart of humanity. And oh, she does that so beautifully and humbly. So thank you, Uma, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be here, Saoirse. And I'm always very delighted, especially to offer a little bit of mind expansion, heart expansion around the use even of this word, the see you next Tuesday word, CUNT, which many people identify as a profanity. It often elicits an extremely visceral reaction. So I just thought I'd speak a little bit about that because the word is in the title.
And I just wanted to read into, the beginning of your chapter. You say, Cunt Power is kind and can save the world, or how I learned that love is more powerful than reason. And you go on to speak into the earth is our home. And this is a little poem that you wrote at the top, which I'd love to just read to share with the readers or to the watchers. And then you can tell us all about the truth behind the word. So cunt is the source of the power of life. Cunt is the wellspring of surges that birth. Cunt is the holy force of life, loving us all back home to ourselves and the earth. A sacred doorway to love and to pleasure and life. Cunt reconnects to the mother of all, to the womb of all time, to our blood in the earth, to the bones of our ancestors nourishing life. Cunt is our wisdom, our deep inner knowing, our body's own truth when we listen within. Cunt is the fount of flow tides of blood, root of our joy, cosmic birthplace of life. She is the kindest place.
And that's the truth. That's the truth. Because actually, when you look into what I was saying in those words, and what I'd love to communicate here is a sense that it's a very ancient term that defines our deepest inner knowing. Yeah, there's lots of different etymologies, like the study of the roots of words. And I think it's worth just spending a couple of minutes pointing out that it's a very old English word. English is made up of so many different languages. There's, Latin and Greek and German and Old Norse and bits of Celtic and Anglo-Saxon, and it's all muddled up. It's a proper mongrel of a hybrid language is English. And some of the most powerful words in it are the oldest ones. For example, we can use the word womb, which is the Old English word, instead of uterus, which has a kind of medical terminology because it comes out of, Greek and Latin words tend to be more about power and control of the intellect, whereas the old English words come right out of the earth, and cunt is one of those. And what it actually means when you look into it, its root is connected to the words for cunning, which is like knowing, a kind of cleverness, and also kindle, which is like to kindle, as in to make a fire or to kindle young. And so it has a root in actual the creation of life, in conception, and in the kind of wisdom that's like the deepest kind of knowing, not the knowing that you get in books and from universities, but the kind of knowing that's in our blood and in our bones. And when you think about, when you say, that we still have it in Scotland, the word is used to ken something. Sure, I ken that, I know that. So kenning and cunning and knowing are all rooted in this kind of sense that it's a very intuitive and embodied wisdom. It's also got relations, if you look out in sort of in Sanskrit languages and in some of things like Gakunda. The Kund is the place where you would have the sacred fire. It's like the holding of the Kund. The Havan Kund is where you have the sacred fire, and a Kunt is also that. It's also describing not just the genitalia that are visible, as in the vulva and the labia and all of that. It's actually the whole of the female genitalia, and it's the only word that we have in English that actually describes the whole. And we have a word in Sanskrit, yoni, which means the source place, but that also refers to female genitalia. So when I wrote the book Yoni Shakti, it means cunt power. So people were very excited to hear about Yoni Shakti because they thought that sounded all kind of, Eastern and Sanskrit and marvelous, but they didn't realize cunt power. You don't want to use that because nobody would read it, because there's this charge. And this is the question I ask. Why would it be that this word that's so ancient, like right back into things like cuneiform, that has the same root of it? Cuneiform was the oldest kind of writing in the whole of the earth, and it was created by women. And it's coming out of marks that were made to track our menstrual cycles. It's really ancient knowing that's embodied when we really feel how it is to live in these bodies on this planet. That's your cunt. That's what it is. So why would it be? Just ask yourself. Why would it be that this word that relates to our deepest inner intuitive knowing, why would that have become an insult, like possibly the worst insult in English? The kind of insult that people like, it's actually banned on national radio in England. You're not allowed to say it, even if you're a professor who's written a book about the etymology of the word cunt that has the word cunt in the title. She wasn't allowed to say the word cunt when they were reviewing her book. She goes, I know that the title of my book is banned. It's that kind of word. Like, you're not even allowed to say it. You can get away with the odd feck or fuck, that, but you can't even say that word. So why would that be? Think about it just for a minute. What is the most powerful force on the planet? The most powerful force is the intuitive embodied wisdom of the wild, of the wild earth, of the wild humans, of all the creatures, of the cycliterate. That's another great word that I use, knowledge of cycles. All of that wisdom is intuitive knowing that's really powerful. It's powerful because it's free, like it's about liberation, and it's powerful because it reconnects us to each other. Because often if you have often intuitive wisdom manifests itself as like what's going to keep you safe, what's going to keep you well, and you'll be like, no, I don't want to go there, I don't want to be with that person, I'd have a funny feeling about that, I deeply know that feels really bad. And in all the work that I did, like when I was putting together kind of reports from the survivors of various kinds of abusive cults in yoga, nearly all of them said, I kind of knew it was really bad. I knew, but there was something I was gaslit, there was propaganda, I was overruled, I was disregarded. And basically our connection to our deep inner knowing is a dangerous thing for anybody who wants to be in charge. Like if you want to run an evil yoga cult, or if you want to run capitalism or colonialism, basically you have to eradicate people's connection to the deep sense of inner knowing that stuff is bad. Capitalism is not fair. Colonialism is violence. And these kind of cults that you get drawn in, you kind of know all along that there's something iffy about them, but somehow you get... So what you see in those three examples is of people's connection to their intuitive knowing being discredited or them being made ashamed of it, because you can't actually take it away. That's the thing. We were talking about that in the birth roundtable, weren't we? You can't take away this immense power of life. It's always there. So if you want people to be disconnected from it, so that they're not troublesome and they don't uprise against your systems of oppression and say, F you, we're not standing that, we'll all stand together, there's more of us than there are of you. That's the last thing you want if you're the 1% and you want to be in charge of everything. You don't want people connected to their inner knowing and then connecting to everyone else, because my inner knowing, for sure, Saoirse, would protect you and your children, and you, Amalia, and you, Hannah. Like it's kind of like it's the Bush telegraph. It's the gossip that would help us preserve our safety and preserve our children's safety. Because you say, you know, those people are iffy. You don't want to go there. He's off. That's dangerous. Don't go. You know, we'd share that. That's the rooting of cunt. It's like sharing that deep inner knowing. And the last thing any controlling, oppressive system wants is for us to be connected to that. And since you can't actually take it away from us, you just make us ashamed of it. It's the same thing with menstrual blood. You can't stop people bleeding, but you can make them, and you can't stop that power, but you can make them ashamed of it. So the use of shame is an incredible tool of the master, the patriarchy, to control the wildness in us. Be ashamed of your sexuality. Be ashamed of your blood. Be ashamed of your cunt. Don't even say the word. And then we disrespect intuitive knowing. Say, oh yeah, that's women's intuition, feminine intuition. It's like a joke. So I'm here as an advocate for intuition. That is my main job. I do a lot of different things with yoga therapy and the tarot reading and the dream work and all of these things, and all of the work I do with the trainings and the teaching are basically, I'm an advocate for everybody's intuition, and everybody's intuition is their cuntiness. And that is so kind because it's life. And it reconnects us. And that's what will save the world. People tuning back into their intuition and, leaving harmful situations, leaving jobs that leave them desperately depleted and exhausted. They just walk out on them. Why? Because they've got a feeling that it's not right for them, or that their body keeps the score and, gives up. The body doesn't lie. So that's my kind of overview about why it's really important. And the reason it's been made into an insult is so we don't even say the word. You're not just ashamed of it. People are scared that you will offend people. And so it gets identified as a profanity. It is not a profanity. It was a word that described a state of kind of something of honor. Like a lot of other words like crone, hag, whore, all of these words were honorifics, by which I mean like something like reverend or lord or your majesty. You'd be the great hag Uma, or the fine whore Saoirse, or the crone Hannah. These words would be used to identify your wisdom, and cunt was one of those. It's like a really powerful thing. So of course, if it's got any power in it, has to be, the power can't be removed, but we have to be disconnected from it by making us feel ashamed of it and frightened to say the word. And so it's used as an insult. So that's the kind of culture we live in, where our most precious human guidance system, our intuition, which is basically, when you think about it, it's how we connect to the whole of the world. All those birds flying that way, the smell of this, the feel of this tree. It's our intuitive connection with all of life. And that has to be eradicated if you're running an empire. You have to colonize that, own it, extract it, sell it, and commodify it. And if you can't do any of those things with it, you just remove it by violence or by making people feel ashamed of all those other things: sexuality, blood, power, the power of knowing. So that's why I'm really passionate about it, and why I use the word. And at this point, I'm going to wind up my little opening thing by a deep honoring to an incredible friend of mine who passed many years ago now. Her name was the Lady Cuntlove. You may or may not have heard of Colette Nolan. So I would really like to speak her name, Colette Nolan, who was the advocate for cunt loving. She ran the Cunt Loving Quest. She ran the Cunt Emporium. She made cunty teas. She wore a cunty hat. She was a phenomenal woman from Kildare. Yep, Colette Nolan. And she passed a few years back. And anybody who met her or came in contact with her work will have been uplifted, as I was, And she was the one who was behind me, sure, say, sure, go on, say the word, Uma. Put the word in the book. Put the word in the book. Do it, do it, do it. So that is thanks to Lady Cuntlev. And her mission was cherish the cunt. Cherish the cunt. Not just our vulvas, our vaginas, our wombs, not just to cherish that, but actually to cherish the word and to cherish our intuition. So rest in power. Colette Nolan and all who know you will be uplifted by that remembrance. And I give thanks to her because she's working her magic. She would be right here, Saoirse. And she'd do a better job than me, but I've done the best job I can on helping everybody feel. So every time you use the word, it's like a really powerful, radical act of reclamation, a powerful, radical act of reclamation. And the more you do it, the less weird it seems. So eventually it isn't a profanity. It's just a great word to define not just the whole of genitalia, but our deep intuitive knowing. And you can go hunting around. Like we used to have a river Cunt here, very close to where I live. They changed the name to the River Kennet. But the River Kennet is the River Cunt, just in case you're looking. That's what I'd like to say. I'm sure there are things that chime in with other fine cuntinesses.
It looks like Hannah has something she wants to say.
I'm shaking. And my heart is beating so hard. Uma, Colette is here, and I never met Colette, but I know her boy. I'm here in the mountains. I lived in Cigarones and I went to Dalaluf midwifery school. And I used to tour. God, my heart's beating so hard. Wow. I used to tour with the midwifery school, and I was at Boomtown Fair with Vanessa and with the school, Dalaluf, and we had a big sign. I think Ness would say, "Cunt know thyself," was this sign, and it was outside the workshop. And the mayor of Boomtown came, and he was so insulted by this sign, and we had to take it down, and we had to remove it. And I was like, "This is Boomtown, like the stuff that's going on here." And like, this is what you're coming to protest against and try and take away. I was so angry that I made a bigger sign with the word cunt and put it outside. But then what proceeded to happen to me was one of the most remarkable channelings and experiences that I'd ever had. Vanessa had a tap pile of clothes, and I picked out this dress. It was this pink Indian dress with sparkles and like the Indian throw, and I got it on, and I was like, I am Princess Vagina. And I was like, I can feel this archetype coming through me called Princess Vagina, and she wants to teach the girls about cunt and their bleed and their cycles and sacred sex and conscious conception. And this is like, this information was just flooding through me. And I went out that night and partied in Boomtown as Princess Vagina, telling everyone about her mission. And that night I got back to the tent, and there was this poem coming through me, really wanting to come through me, called Just Because I'm a Cunt. And my phone had died, and I couldn't find a pen, and I couldn't find any paper, and I found this book that I'd picked up in the festival somewhere when they dropped from trees at a part of Boomtown. I picked up this book, put it in my pocket, hadn't looked at it, and then I'm scribbling this poem that's this download that's coming through me, just because I'm a cunt. And it feels the moment to share her. Just because I'm a cunt. Do I not bleed the first time you penetrate me? Plant your seed. Seed of validation, seed of doubt. Hopefully it's just love you leave on your way out. Bleed with the full moon, or maybe it's new. Just because I'm a cunt doesn't mean I can't change my mood. I see the way you look at me, hear if you spoke to me with kindness. I'm hardly going to get wet over your cunty potent blindness. They tried to take my magic away, you see, and demoralize me. Fool after fool came before me, literally. Took too little time to explore me and the vast universe inside. Your instant dial out of here when orgasm collides. Just because I'm a cunt, don't be jealous of me. She doesn't like hate, envy, put downs, or greed. It will disconnect you from my close friend above, the heart. Now noticing the wetness is from my eyes, not my lovely lady parts. Keep the heart pounding as you enter inside. Stroke me gently and kindly and ask permission before you choose to reside. Leave only with love and intentions that are pure. It's because I'm a cunt that you exist, breathe, and have a world to explore. And I realized after I'd written this poem that the book I'd actually written it in was a book on female genitalia that I had randomly picked up, and I have this in my drawer. But what I think, Uma, is I went back to Ness and I told Ness about this poem and what was happening with the archetype coming through me. And I shared something online and someone said to me, oh, you sound like Colette, Lady Cunt Love. And I told Ness and she said, wow, you're wearing her dress, babe. It was Colette's dress. The Indian pink beautiful princess dress was one of Colette's dresses, and I had absolutely no idea. And I do feel, I never knew her, but I feel her and her mission so strongly, and I feel like that poem was from her. And that poem has flown. Next thing I know, I was in the poetry slam at Shambhala, reading it, sharing it everywhere. It's growing and flying. But just because I'm a cunt, much to my mum's distress, who hates this word and hates this poem. And every time I've done a big thing with this poem, I can feel her shame that this is the poem that I'm getting noticed for. And how could I be using that word? And I'm literally like, I have a very open relationship with my mum. I'm like, Mum, you're the reason I wrote this poem. Stop being a cunt. But I don't agree in using it derogatorily as we have this is why this word was stolen, to moralize and be used against us. And how many of us have been like on the receiving end and victim to this word. And I get why so many people but they, you know, by learning, like you've shared, the true meaning and origins of this word and the power it holds, this cunty potency, which is just womb magic, witches magic, our knowing, as you've shared. So I'm just, yeah, I'm shaking and my heart's beating. I feel like, wow.
For sure, that's the voice of the Lady Cunt Love. In her dress. Yeah. In her dress. And isn't that a beautiful thing? That's why I feel it can save the world, because it unites and connects us all. Because once you feel that, you're like, yeah, this is not, and I don't want this to be called an insult. And when it gets turned around, I'm going to be say one last thing, because I want to hear Amalia's voice. But because you're talking about turning it around, like, well, you know, people turn it against us, and your poem picks it up and turns it back. So it's just the very first piece that I wrote for in Yoni Shakti was about a collective turning around, and it's a true story. And it's a story of a group of about 30 women in a basement. They used, back in the day, you know, before they made a lot of money out of the things I was doing, they'd stick us in the basement. And in London, sometimes you get those little windows and you can see people's feet walking along the pavement. A lot of cities have rooms like that. So I was in the basement, like on a Saturday night, and it was kicking off outside. And it, you know, yoga's a, you know, it's got a thing, hasn't it? It's all these white privileged ladies doing their thing. I'm about spending my privilege. That's what I've got plenty of it, educational privilege and my white face, and I will spend the privilege that I have in service of liberation for all. But that day, what happened was, yeah, that evening, as these lads walked past, they saw all these nice yoga peeps doing their yoga, and they spat in through the window, spat in and shouted, "You cunts!" like this at 30 women. And there was pin drop silence. And when we're collective like that, so we've been doing women's yoga. You have to understand the context. We've been doing women's yoga. We've been doing the Yoni Shakti training, and I've been talking about reclaiming it. And I said nothing. I just let this drop. And as one, every single one of those 30 women did this, raised their hands, and they went, yes, yes, we are cunts. You know, and they ran screaming. They were lads, 16-year-old lads. But it was like this collective sense is that you're using that as an insult. We will take that as an accolade. All of us. You're going to take us all on, are you? Yes. It was a wonderful moment. And people think I make that kind of story up, but that actually happened. And I think it happens because of the spirit of folk like Colette and yourself. And us all, just like it ignites something. That's the rising, Saoirse. I didn't have to choreograph that. I didn't say, okay, 1, 2, 3, ladies, let's claim this back. It was just in everybody's heart. Everybody did the same thing and raised their hands for power and shouted, yes, we are cunts. And we can save the world, because at the heart, at the root of the word is the word kindness. That's another root of it. Kindle, kund, kind. It's kind. It can't be otherwise. And I'm quoting Jay Griffiths here, who wrote an incredible book called Wild. If you don't know it, you need to read it. It's called Wild, an Elemental Journey. And Jay Griffiths writes about cunt, and she says, my cunt is kind and cannot be otherwise, because it's the place that holds life. I'm done.
I know, don't stop. Oh, wild and elemental journey. Yeah, you touch a lot on the elements. Maybe just, if you do have to leave us just with some wisdom on how we can reclaim it as well for all women, especially women who have, completely disconnected from it and who still don't know how to access it. Some tips and tricks and what we can do and working with the elements to come back to and a remembrance.
All right, so 3 simple things. 1, about the word cunt. Honestly, the more you say it, the less it sounds like an insult and the more it sounds like an accolade. I'll take the accolade. So you just practice saying it. Cunt, 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 cunt. That was Colette's teaching. Second, know that we are part of everything and that in our bodies, we literally embody the elements. And that's the basis of all the yoga therapy and most indigenous wisdom traditions that I'm conscious of, that work with all the elements. We're all seeing that what's inside in the microcosm is outside. So basically know in your embodied wisdom that literally from your feet to your cunt is earth. The pelvis is the water. You can feel it. It makes sense. The belly is the fire. And the air, this space of the heart down to the hands, that's the air. It's the spaciousness of the heart. And all of this here, this is air and this is space. The space to voice ourselves, and that actually knowing that you're part of everything, you're never alone. Nobody's ever going to be left behind. We're all part of this living conscious earth, and reclaiming those parts that have been turned into insults or deemed shameful. That's part of the whole healing. And that's rematriation, which is the 3rd thing. We're going to talk about that in a separate workshop. But I think that's important. Say the word, know you're part of everything that ever is. Yeah. And that in that connection, we rise together and we will reclaim for wholeness all the lost and forgotten parts of us. Nothing is ever lost or forgotten. And the wisdom of what's ancient and strong and in the earth is in us all. And the more you affirm that for yourself, you affirm it for all of your brothers and sisters everywhere. And so we rise together. There you go. And saying the word cunt, I do believe is part of it. Reclaiming all the insults. Saying the words, speaking the unspeakable. I think that's partly my job, isn't it? Speaking the unspeakable. Why is it unspeakable? Mostly it's because it's about power. It's got a charge to it. So let's reclaim that power. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Cunt, 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 cunt. I'm going to write a song about cunts. Awesome. I love it. I love it. And beautiful. Amalia, you're here with us from the sacred lands of Mama Bali. And I know that, this is a very patriarchal society too, where women are kind of, made to kind of look pretty and not say much, just do what they have to do and show up for their culture. But you are disrupting that system. You are one of the next generation of women who are coming through, reclaiming your femininity and your power and your cunt, I hope. So share a little bit about what is coming up for you and what your connection is to your cunt power.
before I start, I'd like to appreciate Uma and Hannah for sure. I just get some insight. Like it's I I didn't even think that before, but every word that Uma spoke to us is so powerful because sometimes if you speak that word here in this country, that would be so taboo if you know it. I even say that word in just biological classes, biology classes, not in everyday living, like for saying it in front of everyone. So, well, I'm shocked, but I deeply admire the philosophy behind it, that this word can lead us to liberation and how to embrace our gifts, talents as a woman to the world. That this word is also so powerful to change, to make the world know or the man know about what is behind it so they can appreciate it more. And for Hannah, for sure, for saying that was shaking for you, but for me, it's wow. I do feel as a woman who is raised in a culture where, yeah, you know, you are right, Sharsa. Um, we really need to be paying attention to what we speak, how we talk, our manner or attitude, because we're controlled by some rules and by always by never have a right to speak about what is um, right or not. We're just like following all of those things without even realizing why we need to follow it. If we don't follow it, then we're rebel. And here I am in rebel mode. So yeah, that's why I love that word. I love the spirit behind it. Um, how I how I see myself in that spirit is that I really appreciate my own land and the people, the culture that are behind it. But in some point that make me feel so sad is that people do not have um, a space, a safe space to really not advocate, speak their fear, okay? Speak their fear. And by having this power of Cunt, um, we're gonna creating a newer um, space. We're creating a newer, fresher perspective about how women should be presented. Um, they're still appreciating their culture. They're still following all the rules, but they need to have a space, a safe space for developing themselves in a way that make them maximizing what they have inside their heart. Okay, but not everyone has it here. um, I love when you say that our intuition can lead us into something big, like as long as I catch you, when you say that all along the way the power is still here inside yourself, and it started by realizing, by listening to your own body, because if you don't believe in yourself, like that's gonna be the first way to actually change your whole world, by believing in yourself, by believing in your power, by sharing the kindness that is in your heart. So yeah, that's what I can say. But that's also inspiring that I listen to all of you and taking all of your perspective towards what happened to you. And I hear a lot about your amazing background, and I'm here for learning.
We love it. And you are learning every day, and we're learning from you and learning together. And you are Miss Education, a beauty queen in Bali who goes around to all these different villages and places around Bali and Indonesia, teaching and advocating for education and for just helping young girls to strive to educate themselves and to be a stand for themselves. So what will your message be now that you have a new understanding of the word cunt and the connection that it has to our intuition, and the fact that the system uses it and shames us out of being connected to it? How will that change your leadership now? How has even the journey of being in Rebel Ma and awakening to the feminine wisdom of the elders around you, of the women all over the world who have, contributed to, how has that kind of shaped your leadership in a new way? And how will you share that with others on your journey?
Okay. I do feel that by joining Rebelma's writing project, I can share a lot, and it expand my own leadership for sure, because I finally have a platform where I can speak about what matters for me that can be used later as a legacy. By having a book, by having by having a writing project, it means my ideas or the inspiration that I have in my head doesn't stop in me, but can be read by the whole generation for sure. By I think leadership is not about how you command people to do something else, but towards your growth, you can um, you know um, having a wisdom to always growing towards your mistakes, or towards your failure, or towards your people that give new ideas to you. For example, when I meet you at the Ubud Writer and Readers and Festival, I feel so proud, because I didn't even expect that our group will be sold there. uh, all our people around the world can see what we create and what we aspire. That's the most important thing. And then um, towards, sorry, through this work, through this new understanding and philosophy, I can strengthen my own self motivation. Because I think when no one supports me, these girls, this woman helped me with the confidence I have inside myself, and then um, maybe I have time, take some time to adapt, but that's the good news. The good news is that we can collaborate and create something big in the future. Um, what else?
That's perfect.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you that you can present this work in Ubud Reader and Writer Festival. That's for sure. Because I need to appreciate what you do for all of us. It means you share all the thoughts for those who need to be wild, who need to liberate themselves, who are craving for a safe space to nurture their soul, which means getting closer to their own intuitions at first place. That's it.
Beautiful. I love that. Yes, and that is the journey of, writing our stories in the book or becoming a published author allows us to really connect to that intuitive part of ourselves, to like really, really own our truth, to do the inner work we need to do to tap into who the fuck we actually are and what we are stand for, and how we're showing up in the world. And it is a journey of becoming. Once you write your chapter in the book, you nearly have to be that. Then it's like it's an embodiment of your next level. It's a real reclamation of your truth and your feminine essence, and a remembering. It's an incredible journey that I think that every single one of the women who have been part of it have come home to themselves. It's like a homecoming. It's like an integration of all of the healing and all of the things that you think and then when you actually have to really own it, it's like, oh God, do I even know this? Am I really this? And yeah, it's an up leveling, isn't it, into the next embodiment of who you say you want to be, and a liberation from any old stories that are holding you back from standing in your truth and power wholeheartedly. So That's what I love about writing in the Rebel Ma books, or writing any books, I guess. And Hannah, tell me this, if in terms of your, liberation story, and I know that, you shared an incredible birth story in our book, and it was very much of owning your truth and trusting yourself. And what's next for you now? I mean, what are you feeling, is the story on your heart right now? What's the next story you want written for women?
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I feel like there's so many stories. For me, I feel like getting my birth story out there was, because it's such a unique story in birth. So, and that obviously we touched, it was only just yesterday how, like, through healing birth, we can heal our earth. So for me, having that birth vision and having that birth experience and being able to write it and share in the world was such a huge moment for me. And it is exciting to think where I will take it next. Yeah, I feel so ready to write. That's why I asked about the next book title earlier, because I do feel keen to start my chapter, and yeah, my whole book. And through the poetry, I think I really feel called. And even this week, just sharing my poetry in this summit, that it does need to reach the wombs of the world and the cunts of the world. And yeah, actually putting together a poetry book that leads women through the cycles of their lives. So poetry for the maiden, poetry for the mother, poetry for the crone. That's what's feeling really alive inside me right now, and actually birthing that poetry baby out there.
Yes, I love the sound of that. Very, very, very good. And you could even do it as a collaboration rather than you having to write every single one of
Yeah,
them.
I think that's my vision, a collaboration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and why not? Why do it on your own? That's the beauty of the collaboration. That's the beauty of the cunt. She wants to do things together. She doesn't want to be left on her own devices. It's all about solidarity, sisterhood, collaboration,
That's what
connection.
we call it. I'll call it cunt collab poetry.
Done.
Let's see if they let me print it. Oh yeah, we can. Because let's see, let's get it out there. I think it needs to be, yeah, the reclaiming of it is to not tiptoe around it. It's just to, get it out there.
Yeah, 100%. And that is the beauty of writing, and we connect to our, you'd think, oh, writing's such a daunting thing, but as you say, like, you're channeling the ancients, you're channeling the ancestors, the power and the wisdom of the people that came before us. And we all can do that. We set up a little bit of a sacred space for ourselves. We connect, we get intentional about making the space. You don't just, like, it doesn't come. We have to make it. We have to take it as mothers and women who are busy in this world, and trust that we are supported and we are guided, and that we have got the wisdom of 3,000 ancestors inside us, and they are guiding us, and they want us to use our voices. They want us to share our gifts. And as I said before, when we do that, we liberate those who came before us, and we create more solid foundations for those who are coming after us, and the red thread that goes back to the beginning of time, and will continue as long as our beautiful planet Earth allows us to. But yeah, beautiful. I love this chat. It was very, very insightful. I learned some new epidemiology information. That woman is incredible. Thank you, Uma. We didn't get a chance to bow down to her, but yeah, we will continue on through our week, and she'll be back tomorrow for Rematriating Society. And thank you, Leah. Thank you, Hannah, for joining me today. How can people find you, or what is the work that you do right now that you can share with people watching today?
Find me on Instagram, Hannah Mama Skye, and the next Waking the Witches retreat will be happening in the spring equinox, and all details will be coming soon for that. And we'll be hitting the UK and maybe Ireland next year with Waking the Witches. She's an energy of her own, and she wants to fly a bit now, so, and reach more cunts of the world.
Oh, wow. Yes, I'll be there with you in Ireland, Waking the Witches for sure. And Leah, what are you up to in the world? How can people find you?
You can follow my Instagram, Amalia Angga. Amalia Angga. There I can share a lot of social separate work that I'm really concerned on English educations, like language educations. And if you're foreigners and want to having your volunteer activity here, can you can kindly find me in Patriarchal Bali and directly contact them, and I'll guide you through some volunteer activity that might make you exciting.
Yes, she does. You have a volunteering agency. That's really, really special. I can't wait to do some work with you in the future and give back in that way. So thank you for the work that you do, ladies, and really, really appreciate you taking the time to share from your hearts and your wombs and your cunts. And we shall reclaim that word continuously. Thank you to Colette for being on this call with us too, and all the ancient matriarchs guiding us to be here with you. So we hope you enjoyed it today, and we look forward to, tomorrow. That's a wrap, baby.